This is Unlock Me Worldwide podcast, where I discuss all things digital access for overseas online businesses. So if you're functioning a business overseas or you're thinking of moving your business overseas, this podcast will probably be one of your best resources because everything that I discuss has to do with my 20 years of travel. I've lived in Southeast Asia. I've lived in Brazil, South America, and 10 years in the UAE, where all the digital nomads call home. A lot of the digital nomads that I've encountered, they don't even do business locally. They just call the UAE their home because of the safety. Yeah, Dubai is very safe. Outside of this Iranian missile attacks. Cops barely carry guns. Citizens don't have guns. So everybody's employed. So we're talking about 98, 99% employment rate. The people who live there on a work visa. You can't be in the country if you don't have a job. So saying that to say, I've seen a lot of digital nomads living and managing their online businesses in the UAE. There's 8.5 million remote businesses outside of the United States border. 36% of those remote workers are independent digital nomads. So we're talking about, let me do the math for you. That's about 7 million. That's about 7 million remote workers, digital nomads that are choosing any number of destinations: Vietnam, Thailand, Australia, Brazil, Southeast Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and India, and as well. They're able to live where they want to live. They're able to work where they want to work and create the same income that they would in their home country because of the digital access. They've figured out how they can maintain all of their local accounts, their finances, their banking, their social media. They maintain all of their local accounts, although they're living outside of the borders of the United States. How do they do that? When these organizations like TikTok, or well, they're not a U.S. company, but millions of users in the U.S. When the local bank, Chase, Wells Fargo, when they ask for verification codes because the IP address is not registering, it's not adding up, the identity is different than it normally is, they're able to verify who they are with short codes, recovery codes, and PIN codes. These are the must haves for a digital marketer for an online business that functions overseas. These are just keys to the kingdom of the world, as the Game of Thrones calls it, the realm. If you want to protect the realm, you need to make sure you've got PIN codes, recovery codes, and short codes. These things you must have access to. The way to gain access to these things is to make sure that you've maintained your local phone number, because those short codes cannot come to you without a verifiable text message, SMS. You will not be able to receive those short codes. This is like a fundamental. No, I'm not gatekeeping. These keys to the kingdom. This is the reason why you have so many successful online businesses overseas. Right now, 7 million, and this number should double by 2030. Should be 14 million remote workers working independently overseas by 2030. Are you going to be one of them? And besides the location freedom, what you can do for your children. I see more and more in Thailand, especially, like you see like 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and you just say to yourself, wow, if my parents would have brought me to Thailand for a year or two, there's a such thing as a gap year. I learned that while I was traveling. And I started seeing, when I was traveling to South America, I would see 18-year-olds and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you do? You go to school? What do you do?" We'd be hanging out in a hostel, which is like 12. This is my first start traveling. It was like a $12 hostel or something, 12, $13 a night hostel, and I'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing? Where are you going?" They'd be like, "Oh, we're just hanging out. I'm going to Yale next year, or I'm going to University of Connecticut like next year." He's like, "Yeah, I just graduated from high school," and uh, the parents told me just to take a year and just gallivant around the world, learn a few things before I actually start my college career. I equated that to the young kids that their parents brought them to Thailand, to Vietnam. Imagine this to be able to give your children this type of exposure, even if your business just lasted for 1 year. Like if you went over there to say Vietnam or say Thailand or South America, you went to Argentina or Chile for 1 year and you took your 14-year-old with you. What kind of person would you be would you be creating to give them that cultural experience before they even stepped into high school, before they even stepped into college? And with the way things are now in the United States, with it being so tricky because you got so many of these organizations that's willing to try to twist your child's mind, you would be able to shape their mind in a much more a healthy way. So, the digital access journey not only affects you, it's also going to affect your children and your children's children because they're going to be exposed to so much more of what this world is really about rather than just CBS and NBC News, which is trying to tell them that they're worthless and they need to be scared about everything. So this is the type of stuff that makes me super 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 happy about this journey. I really do believe that it is a humanitarian effort, and there's a lot to be said about location freedom, being able to generate an income anywhere you are in the world based on good business principles, but also based on digital access, being able to access all of your financial accounts, your social accounts, and your SaaS products anywhere you are in the world without fear of being suspended or locked out. Locked out abroad is not the way to to prosperity. It's not being locked out abroad is just not um a formula for success with their online business overseas. So look, you're listening to the Unlock Me Worldwide podcast. Our flagship product is called Locked Out Abroad, which is a travel risk assessment management tool. Curates all the stuff that I'm talking about, right? All these things that I'm talking about, VPNs, password security, eSIM card. It curates everything and gives you an assessment score as to your readiness to actually take your business overseas. And for those of you who are already overseas, it's just as valuable a tool because there are ways for you to raise your game because if you're already overseas and you haven't been assessed and you've probably already been locked out. Unlock Me Worldwide podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and yeah. So Unlock Me Worldwide podcast. We need your support, and we're throwing up a Patreon and support us any way you can because this is designed for online businesses who operate overseas, and I'll give you all the tips, tricks, and tools and stories and case studies that allow you to be successful overseas in this new venture, in this new world order of being able to access and generate funds and handle funds intelligence anywhere on the globe. Unlock Me Worldwide. Go ahead and subscribe.